Hello guys, welcome back to another live segment of Carnivore Team GB. Live Q&A session number 4 with myself, Jonathan from Carnivore Muscle, Phil Escott from the Big Fat Challenge Keto Pro, also known as his actual name, which is Richard Smith, and of course Coach Smeven. How's everyone getting on today?
Did I dip out then? Yeah, all good. I think I dipped out for a second there.
Yeah, I think so.
But all good. Yes, all good. Battling on, as we said off air.
Yeah. How about you, Stephen?
I'm very well. I wonder why Rich has put his pen behind his ear, really. But it reminds me of an old joke about a guy on a building site who lost an ear. And there's one lying around on the floor, and the foreman says, "Is this yours?" He says, "No, mine had a pencil behind it." So,
oh dear.
rubbish old joke.
I can see why your career as a comedian didn't last too long, Stephen.
Yeah, I would say, Rich, your mic, you've got a posh mic, but you don't seem to have it switched on, mate.
Yes, do you know why? Because I've moved all of my equipment to my new office, which I should now be broadcasting from. As you know, I've been working towards moving into the new office for quite some time. All set up this week. Or in fact, it was last week. Then 2 days in, my internet went off. So it took another 2 days for BT to sort that out. And then my brand new PC went kaput yesterday. The hard drive packed in, and it is less than a week old. So yeah, something's telling me maybe I shouldn't be operating from an office. But the idea was to broadcast from there. So all my equipment is in the office. So I'm back to my my poor Zoom camera for now. Apologies. Let's hope I can get it all.
It's chemtrails, mate. It's messing everything up. Both of our cars have blown up, and our cooker today. So, you know, I blame it on Bill Gates flying around and spraying us with stuff.
Yeah.
It's the genetically engineered mosquitoes interfering with my cooker. That's what's going on.
Well, I blame it on the powers that be trying to prevent us from spreading the good word.
Well, yes, absolutely. That's what's happening.
Could I be awfully formal and just say hello to a few people that are popping in, like Nicole, the former fat girl, and Rick there, all Matthew. Matthew, we've got some great news for you, or Rich will be in contact with you about some bits and bobs. It's nice, isn't it, to see, you know, so many supporters of what we're doing. It's really nice, and I think we should sort of give them all a shout out, really. Phil up in Scotland there laughed at my jokes. I mean, come on, Phil. Thank you so much. Who have we missed?
Sophie's made it on tonight.
Herbert, of course. Former fat girl. Ben. Well, that's not Ben Hunt. That's a different Ben.
Yeah.
I think. Muscle Mama. Yes, I like that name though.
That's Sophie.
What's random who to simp? I wonder what that is. But anyway, right.
I'm not sure. But welcome anyway, whoever it is.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing all this? I'm kind of blind to all this.
In the comments.
In the comments section on the right-hand side of your screen.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay. No, I thought there was like a participant list. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm old.
That's no excuse, sir. Well, we had a question then, didn't we?
I'm just going to get back to it, I think. The question is from Andy828, and it is, how many teaspoons of sea salt would you recommend for optimal health and athletic performance? We've all got the same answer to this because I know how we've answered it before, but Richard, perhaps do you want to start, as you're quite expert at electrolytes and things like that?
Yeah, to be honest, I think the optimal level is whatever your body needs. And I know that sounds like an obscure answer, but the body is, there we are. That's my old flyer, by the way. The body is highly attuned to the salt that it requires. So if you adjust your salt to taste, what you'll find is when you're adjusting or adding salt to your meals, some days or some meals you'll feel like you don't want salt. Other times you'll feel like you need more salt. So I'd listen to your body. but don't believe what is touted in the media in regards to optimal or the maximum that we should consume, which is around about 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. This, as the study that we've referenced countless amounts of time shows, the study covers 100,000 participants over 17 countries, and it shows a massive increase in all-cause mortality when we go below 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. So, I mean, teaspoon-wise is roughly 3 to 4 teaspoons per tablespoon. I would say we want at least a tablespoon per day. That should put us anywhere between 4 to 10,000 milligrams of sodium. The optimal range, according to this study, was between 4 to 6,000, but the study referenced excretion. So it measured the amount of sodium that it was excreted from the body. So this doesn't account for what was used. So we can assume that what was excreted is at least what we've used. Personally, I'm around 10,000 milligrams of sodium per day, give or take. I don't track, but I do it intuitively. Quite often when you are craving sugar, it's not actually sugar you're craving, it's salt. So I suggest salt in your meals, adjust the taste, use electrolytes if you need to, because potassium is just as important, if not more important than sodium itself, although sodium is critically important. I wouldn't chase the calcium. Calcium is found in all the foods we eat, and we get plenty through the diet. And if we look as nature intended, there's a ratio of roughly 4 potassium to 1 sodium, and then it comes down further to magnesium and calcium again, with calcium being the lowest amount found in nature, apart from things like milk and eggs, things that are designed to give life to something initially, where we need lots of healthy, strong bones. So bar this, past infancy, I'd say eat as nature intended. Salt your meals as you need to. As far as athletic performance goes, yes, we're going to need more. But again, use it intuitively. I find the best protocol is keeping a steady level throughout the day, rather than having lots in one go. Take it in throughout the day. And just remember that sodium depletes potassium, and we need both for athletic performance. So just be mindful when it comes to athletic performance, but be careful when it comes to athletic performance in regards to cramping, because a lot of cramps are touted within the industry as being a lack of magnesium, where in fact it's probably excess calcium. Calcium is excitatory to the muscle, the myosin and the actin. Calcium is the exciting part, and magnesium is what calms it down. They almost work against each other, but it's excess calcium that will cause cramps after sort of exercise and stuff. So it's not a case of you can level that out by increasing magnesium, to which I would, if you need to add additional magnesium, do so through glycinate. But it's usually a case of excess calcium in the diet rather than not enough magnesium. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but you're welcome to add to that if you want to.
And we're talking sodium chloride, not sodium on its own, as Rick, I think, pointed out in the comments. But I think when we talk sodium, we mean sodium chloride.
Yeah,
I think we all
Hopefully.
realise that.
Yeah, I've actually got British product here. It's keto electrolyte. So I've got this one, and I've got another flavor which I think is like cherry berry. Honestly, I don't use this every single day, but on days when perhaps I don't eat much in the morning, I've been a bit sick, where I've like lost a lot of electrolytes, my body's under stress, I'll actually add a scoop in, and I'll have that within about an hour or so before training. It seems to be helpful. I don't feel like I'm going to injure myself because I'm dehydrated, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I recommend them and I'd use them. But I think with sodium, especially sodium, it comes just salt to taste. And it should be eating a relatively species appropriate diet. You can't get too wrong. I think people that benefit most from like the daily electrolyte use, people that transition perhaps they've got leaky gut, they're not absorbing all the vitamins as well, so you have to also minerals as well, so they perhaps have to take more, but that doesn't fix it. At the end of the day, you always want to heal your body from the inside out. And just anecdotes, I've been consuming on average over the last 4 years about 200 to 250 milligrams of magnesium per day. I still sleep at night, I still perform well in the gym. So it kind of tells you the body is adaptive. So like Rich said just now, you don't want to flood your body with 4 scoops of electrolytes, then go to the gym, then not eat any rest of the day. Your body wants to always be on even keel, so you just want to drip feed things like electrolytes in. Otherwise, you'll get cramps, diarrhea, all sorts of things. So be cautious of that as well. Did either you or Phil have anything to add to that, Stephen?
I'm going to ask a question. And what do you think of soul water or soleil water, as they call it?
Couldn't really care less for it, to be honest.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
In case people don't know, that's this thing where you basically leave the salt in the water overnight and it thoroughly dissolves. This is like one of the things I thought Phil would actually know, because it's sort of one of those things that he normally pipes up and says, "Oh, I've tried that and it made no difference." But yeah, I just think it gets pushed ever such a lot, but I don't really see the point. But with Rich's electrolytes, I know he's got his chocolate BHB there, but I actually just make a big big liter of it, and I leave it on the kitchen side, so that's doing that anyway. I don't drink it all, but maybe overnight I might take half of it to the gym and around with me, and then the next morning I'll have it. Well, that's got to be pretty dissolved, unless Rich, as the designer of that electrolyte, thinks that's bad. But I can't see why that's particularly in vogue at the moment.
I don't know. There's loads of stuff, isn't there, about electrolytes and out there. I love watching Cole Robinson on his channel. He's so funny. I mean, how can a man swear that much? It's amazing, and yet he still gets intelligent concepts over. But I don't know. I'm very simple with electrolytes. For my experience, really, it's mostly from my experience and from other people's that. I ended up being sort of blue lighted in and hospitalized with the most unbelievable arrhythmias back. It was like 2012 or something. And I'd gone keto and I hadn't figured out anything to do with electrolytes. And they took scans of the heart and all that. No, you're fine. And even your calcifications have disappeared when I went high fat, low carb. But I was getting this heart issue. They said, there's nothing wrong with your heart. It's just some electrical thing. All they ever test for in hospital is potassium. And so that was fine. And I figured out, took a bit of magnesium, calmed it down a bit. And then my son came in from climbing one day. And he said, have you not figured it out? He said, you just take salt shots in water. And I find them so much more effective than, a little pinch in your water or whatever and drink it through the day. But like a proper teaspoonful of salt in warm water and then swill it down if you've got any cramps, any palpitations, whatever. And it totally took it away. And I hadn't figured it out for about 2 years. And then I see it coming up on my carnivore group and other carnivore groups. People say, I've got cramps or I've got palpitations. I just leave it alone now because I know there's going to be 100 replies. Just take a load of salt. And it doesn't seem to work the same when you salt your food. So, I mean, Richard here and Stephen, they're much more knowledgeable than me, and Jonathan is as well, about the ins and outs of the physiology of electrolytes. But to me, it was very simple. Just if you have any sort of actual issue with it, then do those salt shots once every 20 minutes. It seems to calm it down if you've got cramps or palpitations, and that's it. Beyond that, the balance of them all, I think you get just from eating this tremendous diet, right? Most of all. But if you're in trouble, of course, go and buy Richard's amazing electrolytes, because there is no better product out there. So if you know that you're depleted in potassium or whatever, go get them. But yeah, it's I'm very simple on this kind of stuff. Drink a load of salt if you need it, if you're cramping up, and just keep on eating high fat carnivore diet, and these things tend to kind of sort themselves out.
And I think we have our salt receptor. If it's too salty, we know. I mean, that's what it's there for. We literally go, wow, that's too much. That's too salty. And I think we need to get more in touch with the simplicity of things. I hope you're going to. There might be a question that you've not spotted, Jonathan, but there's one about what happens when Christmas comes up, and we need to talk about that, I think.
Yeah.
Because interesting.
I literally just saw it.
Yeah.
There we go. Could Kiddie, are any of you going to let loose on Christmas Day, or do you remain strict? Me, honestly, I'm going to have probably roast beef, roast lamb, or roast turkey, or a combination of all three. I'm going to have a couple of roast potatoes, a small amount of carrots, and a small amount of like cauliflower cheese, probably. I'll probably pick the cheesiest part of the cauliflower cheese. Lots of gravy just to get the
crispy bit,
the
that crispy bit on the top, right?
That's the only bit worth eating, really. So really, I just prefer a plate of cheese, to be honest. Yeah. So I'm going to go a little bit off plan. Yeah. What about you guys?
That's the cure for veganism. That crispy bit off the top. No, I'm just going to eat a load of beef and probably drink too much brandy, and that's it. That's Christmas Day for me. No plants. I won't have any of the side dishes or anything like that. I don't even like them, really. It's not a treat to me, so I won't bother.
Yeah. Last year I was invited to my mother's house for Christmas dinner. I've cooked Christmas dinner since I can remember, because I love cooking, and I'm really good at it as well, by the way. But do you know what? I used to make these big extravagant meals full of all these veg platters and all these cool little things, and now I just cook steak. So my meals don't look as pretty as they used to. That's why I don't take many pictures anymore. But I went to my mother's house for Christmas dinner, and she offered to tailor the meal to my needs. And I said, Mom, look, if you go in to cook me Christmas dinner, just put whatever you want on the plate and I'll eat it. Because one, I've been living the lifestyle long enough. I am now, my gut is healed. I'm metabolically flexible. The damage that any of those phytoalexins, plant toxins, and lectins, all of these things are going to cause are going to be negligible. I'm past all of this craving nonsense, and any downstream effect of these nasties in there isn't going to bother me whatsoever. So I had some, but I shouldn't have. I was craving carbohydrate for about 2 or 3 months after this. I loved the Sunday dinner, or the Christmas dinner. It was absolutely incredible. I probably ate about 5 plates worth. So maybe that's where I went wrong. I maintained a ketogenic state, but it fueled all of my cravings. But the takeaway from this, I think, is if you want something, then eat it. Because the second you tell yourself that you cannot have something, you want it even more. And we've got to remember that we can eat whatever we want. Now, quite often, if I go out with friends, they will have something and they will say to me, "Oh, you can't eat this, can you?" To which my answer is always the same. Well, I can eat whatever I want. It's just today I'm choosing not to eat whatever it is that you're eating, that cake or chips or whatever. Tomorrow, I may decide I want to eat it. But when tomorrow comes, generally, I don't want to eat it again because I love the food that I eat. But we've got to understand that this is just as much of a mental game as anything else. And I think if we can be flexible enough that we can indulge a little bit over Christmas with our family, there are far worse things to be doing. I won't be eating any vegetables this year. It didn't work so well for me last year. So lesson learned for me. But what I have found within the community is that if you give yourself that little bit of breathing room and you allow yourself to have these little niceties, or whatever you want to call them, then psychologically it empowers you to make better choices. And think of it as a mental reset, because sometimes we crave these foods so intensely that we will break and just indulge. If there's any time of the year to indulge, it's going to be Christmas time. Give yourself the right to indulge if you want to. And if you decide you don't want to, then it doesn't matter. But don't beat yourself up if you decide to have some mashed potato or some roasties or some cauliflower or broccoli, whatever your poison is. Don't beat yourself up. I think we've all got to we all have to let our head down occasionally. But personally, it's just going to be meat all the way for me.
I think that's a really good point. If you're going to indulge, absolutely enjoy it, have fun, don't worry about it. There was a couple of Christmases ago, after I'd been carnivore for many years already, and we had this massive, great rib roast from this organic farm, you know, and loads more fat around it. And we roasted it down. It was amazing. I thought, that's all I'm going to have. The kids and the missus, they wanted some roast potatoes and parsnips or whatever. None of that green crap, you know. So I roasted them. I sorted all them out. And I thought, do you know what? The one plant matter that I miss is buttery potatoes. They were so good. So I thought, just today, I'm going to absolutely stuff myself. I'm going to eat those potatoes. And back when I was really inflamed with rheumatoid arthritis, I would have like 2 fries and I couldn't walk the next day. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to try this. I'm just going to have a great big feast on these potatoes. And I thought, I won't walk tomorrow, but what the fuck, you know, I just sit in front of the TV. Anyway, I ate all of these and I absolutely pigged out. And I can't say that my stomach felt amazing. It didn't, but it wasn't that bad. Did a couple of farts. Hadn't seen them for a while. As you know, they tend to disappear. But no joint issues, nothing, because I think my gut had healed by then. So it didn't give me any problems. And there was no problem whatsoever. And that was it. I didn't have any for about like another year or something. And I tried a couple and whatever, and it just wasn't really worth it. But yeah, as long as you're healed up and you're healthy. I mean, you know, I don't think that we ever ate plants because we needed plants. We got them seasonally for the benefit of the plants to go and poo somewhere else and spread the seeds. And so they gave us nuts and berries that taste quite nice. And we ate that. So we're perfectly equipped to deal with those toxins. If you're healthy, you've always been healthy, and you've otherwise, eaten pretty well and whatever. If you do that, you're gonna deplete those toxins pretty quickly. Somebody put up here, you know, about Anthony not having any salt anymore, and you know, Anthony Chafee, that is, not having any salt anymore and blah blah. Again, the same thing kind of applies to that. That I think, you know, we didn't have little salt shakers. We didn't have that kind of thing. We roasted a load of meat and we ate it, and that was fine. And you've got to bear in mind that Anthony has never been really ill. He's never really, destroyed his body so much that he needs to bring it back from a state of horrible dysfunction. And so he's sort of got to a point where he doesn't need to eat salt and he eats meat. That's absolutely fine. But it depends on the person. If, you know, just as if you've got to heal the gut and you've got issues with inflammation and whatever, Anthony really hasn't that much. And so he's got to a point where he doesn't need to eat salt. That's fine. That's different for other people. But I wouldn't worry about the salt, because that's one sort of additive to the meat that doesn't create leaky gut, doesn't cause any problems. If you want to eat it, eat it. But, you know, it's a bit difficult comparing yourself to somebody like Anthony, who's been really pretty healthy all his life. And Landers put up here, just while I'm on it, good evening, gentlemen. A big shout out to Phil after watching his video with Dr. Chafee. After watching for almost 3 hours, I'm impressed with Phil's tenacity. Thank you. That's sweet. Yeah, I love chatting to Anthony. We have fun. He's a good guy. He's very entertaining. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to move on to the next question now. So I've just highlighted ones in our private chat, the ones I'm going to pick out. So I can see them. I've just done them in order based on whether they've got a queue or not in front of them.
Jonathan, could I answer the question about what I'm going to do at Christmas?
You can if you want. I thought you weren't going to say anything.
Oh, no, that's okay. If you want to move on.
Go on.
What are you going to have at Christmas?
I want to know what's going on.
I want to know, yeah.
I want to know now.
Well, because I'm different to everyone here. I won't indulge because I know that I won't be good the next day. And I think that's the realism of it. I just wanted to get that across. So I absolutely agree with everything that everyone said. If you can indulge and enjoy it, you know, if you do indulge, don't be guilty. If you could indulge and it does cause you a little bit of a problem, but you go in with informed consent, there you go, then that's great. If you have a potato, but you know you're not going to feel great, but you still want one, that's fine. And I've been doing this 5 years, and I've done that in the past, and this year was a turning point. It was like, I'm not doing that again. Sorry, I just want to feel my best. And I know my best doesn't include potatoes and veg and stuff like that. So I just wanted people to have the permission to do that as well, and just be confident about it. I mean, if people are giving you stick for not eating a potato, they're not a particularly good friend, are they, really? If you're going to lose a friend because you didn't eat a potato, then you need to get some different friends, personally. So that's it. I mean, just be confident, enjoy the stuff that you want to eat. Last year my wife does an amazing beef Wellington, and I ate a beef Wellington and I regretted it the next day, not because it was horrible, but because it made me feel horrible. I love it, but it doesn't love me. It's really that simple. And
what is the beef Wellington? Is it like a steak in some rubber boot or something?
It's a pastry, yeah. And it's got sort of like a mushroomy thing on it, and I mean it's lovely, but like I say, doesn't love me back. So this year I will just be eating the carnivore stuff.
Yeah, to be fair, all the best stuff on the roast dinner Christmas menu is from an animal, if you think about it. I mean, other than stuffing maybe, but that's my own little my little pleasure. So our next question is from Matthew. It's, have you seen Dr. Baker's video with the Plonker vegan? Build lots more human infrastructure and gets rid of many animals. The carbon cycle and many animals are crucial for a healthy diet. I've not seen that video. Have you guys?
Yeah, I've seen a short of it, and Ben suffered through the whole thing today, I think. It's hilarious. Yeah, these people are barking mad. Something's gone horribly wrong. The brain shrinks down. They get aggressive from lack of B vitamins. The whole thing's gone crazy. I mean, there was one video out there a while ago about vegans who wanted to actually put a fence up in the middle of the Serengeti and separate the vegetarian animals from the carnivorous ones until the carnivorous ones learn to eat plants. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. And there was something in that one that Sean put up, about some those vegans. They were on about how, no, nature is wrong, and we need to put up sort of human infrastructure everywhere and go against nature because it's all wrong. And we need to actually even get off the planet because it's fucked. And I don't know, these people, they're absolutely barking mad. What do you reckon, Peter? Vegans, are they sane or are they barking mad? What do you think?
I don't know what sane means.
Sane means not mad.
Okay, they're barking mad then.
There we go. Peter's nailed it.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think he's right, to be honest, in a lot of cases. Yeah,
No,
one vegan today said farting is healthy.
Oh yeah, but not only that, but have you seen the video? I think Sean put it up again. Oh, no, it wasn't Sean. It wasn't Sean. I have to find it, but it's it's like a minute or something short of all the excerpts of Vegan Gains farting and burping during his videos. You know how they had Gregor, they put that one of Gregor going and what's his name, the other vegan doc. But put it together with Vegan Gains just farting, and even his missus complaining about the smell. I mean, how he even puts that stuff out, I don't know. Maybe they're doing our job for us, eh? I don't know.
I keep telling you that.
About what?
I keep saying like vegan podcast and then do that.
I see. Go on. Sorry.
All right. Well, I'm guessing you guys, Richard and Stephen, haven't watched that yet, have you?
Yeah, I saw the short. Yeah, these two guys are absolutely bonking mad. Yeah, it's they want to rid the world of animals, and they're vegans. So it baffles me. But as Phil said, it's when you don't eat meat, it affects the catecholamines. It affects our ability to create neurotransmitters, and then we don't think properly, and then we get depressed and angry. And interestingly, vegans suffer a much higher rate of depression, anxiety, and even suicide than the meat eaters. So I think, that says it all.
Yeah.
Even before they get aggressive, they get really emotional. And somebody said that there was some vegan cafe or something that and he used to see them. I forget where it was now, but they all would go in there for their sort of vegan donuts in the morning, and there was a big queue of them most mornings. And he said that when he went along to check it out, there was at least 3 or 4 of them at any given time in the queue crying about something. You know, it's obviously some serious mental instability. I mean, it is funny in a way, but you know, I always get accused of vegan bashing, but I really don't, because I think, you know, I find, and probably a lot of us do, you know, a lot of our clients are very sick vegans or ex-vegans trying to get out of it. And so we're not bashing them. There's some comedy aspects to it, but, you know, but I will absolutely be happy to bash Gregor and Esselstyn and all the people who are pushing it, because these people are absolute criminals. Did you also see the one where Gregor was challenged of why are so many people healing on a carnivore diet? And he just ummed and ahed and stuttered, and then said, well, it's just
the placebo effect.
Yeah,
placebo.
An excuse to go with our bad habit. I mean, honestly, they are doing our job for us. They really are. Seriously.
No, they couldn't say it was a habit. I mean, I don't eat a steak or some eggs or some cheese and think, oh, I've got to keep doing this. It's more just like, that's what I tend to feel best eating. Whereas when you eat, you know, Snickers bar, you feel pretty good initially eating, but afterwards you feel like crap. So that becomes the habit, getting that constant dopamine hit, you know. I don't know. You guys ready for the next question? Oh yeah.
It's not much of a dopamine hit in a spinach smoothie, though, I tell you.
No, it's a net negative in terms of all positive hormonal responses, I think. Rick said, how could anyone actually want to eat veggies or duck food instead of a steak? I honestly don't know. I don't know. Well, spinach tastes like poison to me, and often you can actually smell and taste the chemicals on it. When I walk down, I know I've had this conversation with Rick before, so when I walk down the supermarket and I smell like the fruit and veg aisle, it smells chemical now, like toxic. It doesn't smell right. Whereas when I walk down their meat aisle, I just smell like nothing, just like a cold nose, basically. So
you can probably smell the...
God, why would anybody want to eat that? It's for the animals, Jonathan. It's for the animals. They're our friends, not our food.
Yeah, go on, Stephen.
Well, if you're in a supermarket with supermarket fruit, you're probably smelling Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation appeal, APWEL, which is a thing that's sprayed on fruit and you cannot remove it. So you are definitely going to eat chemicals, courtesy of Bill Gates, you know, and so your natural fruit and veg is not natural at all.
Well, it's just because he's so kindly coated it in that stuff to keep it fresh for everybody, you know, so that everybody can get their plant toxin intake without it going bad. He's a lovely man, is he not?
Yeah. All right. Next question's from my partner, Sophie. What's your favorite meal, your go-to meal? Well, Sophie knows for me, it's a slow-cooked beef brisket with a mixture of cheeses on it, just sprinkled over it like grated or something. And that's probably my favorite thing I go to eat. If not, then it's salmon with heaps of butter on it and a bit of salt. What about you guys? What do you like at the moment? Maybe Phil or Richard or Stephen, or any of you.
Here, I'll go. I think we need to get some sort of system in moving across the screen, don't we?
We'll go clockwise, I think, next time.
Here we are. So John goes, then Phil, then I'll go, then Steve, is it? How's that work? Or,
yeah.
We'll work it out. For me, it's chuck steak. I love chuck. Also called casserole steak. It's half the price of rump, generally. Incredibly fatty. Most people slow cook it. But I love it pan fried. It's full of fat and I absolutely love it. That on its own with a little bit of salt, and that's me done. Minced beef I also love with some eggs cracked in, and you know, as not as a binder, but made into like a stir fry. But I'm simple. I do love cheese as well. I try not to eat it too often, obviously, you know, because of the casomorphine and the lactose. But cheese does work pretty well for me. But generally, chuck steak. And I've told so many people about how brilliant chuck steak is that my local butcher very rarely has it for me now when I go there. So I'm going to start telling everybody else some other form of meat, I think.
Yeah, use a decoy. Say you like fillet that you probably never buy anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't catch me spending over the odds for when it comes to steak, unless it's a special occasion. But I love the fatty cuts, and the fatty cuts are generally the cheaper. So yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive. Mincemeat is incredibly cheap, and quite often local butchers will blend that with organ meats as well. So you get all of the benefit of the red meat, which is is beef, as well as the added benefit of things like liver, heart, kidney. So if you can't eat organ meats, minced beef is a fantastic, cheap way to get all of the nutrients that you need. What about you, Steve?
Well, that wasn't the order you agreed, but anyway, poor old Phil there has been dumped to last place. I'm sorry to be sort of like an outliner again, but I don't have a particular favourite meal, but I have a few favourites. The first one is steak and kidney pie without pie. Our local butcher makes a mean steak and kidney pudding, actually, so it's got a suet base, but the contents are heavenly, and it's just packed with steak and kidney. And Jane makes me laugh because she opens it up and says, "Oh no, there's loads of kidney in this one." It's like, I'll have that. So I quite like that. Ribeye was my favourite. I'm the same as you, Jonathan. I do like a brie or some sort of cheese with it every so often. But then this butcher, we found some pork chops that taste like pork chops used to taste 50 years ago, and they are absolutely heavenly. So we had that tonight. So no particular favorite, but my favorite thing about Carnivore is the variety. So, I can have scallops, I like fish. I think every meal is wonderful. That's the thing. Sorry to be a bit of a sort of stick in the mud about this, but it's just every meal I think is delicious. I really do. Bacon and eggs, I think it's fantastic. Every single morning, I think I can't wait to eat. Not because I'm craving it. When I get hungry, I'm going to love it. And I don't think I can look back at the 50 years before all this, me thinking like that about much, really. Maybe when I was doing my bodybuilding, I used to do a chocolate porridge thing, which was okay. But you see, look, there's no passion there. It was okay. But if someone said to me, right, we're going to, well, like tonight, Jane said, but I've got some pork chops from Cooper's. It's like, yep, right. Excellent. I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to eat that. So don't have a favourite meal as such. I just have a favourite type of eating, which is carnivore.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I think a lot of the time we sort of gravitate towards a certain food, then accompany with something else. Like nowadays, I don't eat chicken much at all. If I do, it's just merely out of convenience or laziness because I can cook it and freeze it and heat it up. So yeah, I'm going to go.
Yeah, for me, it's just just my favourites. Like Richard, it's the fattiest things. But rib, I think short ribs, beef short ribs. If you can get some good ones, roast them slowly. Oh my God, just can't stop. They're just beautiful. Go-to is lamb burgers, just made from fatty lamb mince. That's a really good one. You just squash them up, throw them in the air fryer, and they're done in minutes. And the kids love them. That they go to school with them in a flask, and that's it. Especially on meat-free Mondays. And that's great. And just lamb chops. Anything really fatty. I do love lamb. So, yeah, that kind of thing. And as Richard says, mince. But with the mince, I'll fry it up and put a bit of bone broth in there as well. And you sort of make yourself some instant kind of, casserole stew thing. That's really nice. Yeah. So, yeah, that's me.
That's pretty cool. Just for anyone listening to this, Stephen's about to go in a minute, so he'll be departing. I appreciate it's quite late at night for us guys in the UK, hence why some of us are in like red light rooms and stuff. So yeah, anyway.
Mine's to look after my dog, actually.
Yeah.
because my dog decides when he wants to go to bed. He's a raw meat carnivore dog. So he's got character, personality. He's very well behaved, incredibly energetic, but knows what he wants. Perfect.
Stephen, really get yourself a boa constrictor, right? It bothers me every 3 weeks for a rat, every couple of weeks to clear up a poo, and that's it. I never get called off calls because the boa constrictor's playing up.
Yeah, I've got a Labradoodle, but that's about it. So sometimes I'll mute my microphone, but that's about it. But he tends to take himself to bed nowadays, so I'm quite fortunate.
Yeah, I'm here on my own with my dogs, and contrary to popular belief, all of us in this room are animal lovers, and we like their life to be as good as possible. But that's what I think anyway. I have spotted a question I do want to answer before I go, because it's got me, which is what is your favourite way to eat eggs? I tend to sort of love poached eggs. I absolutely love poached eggs. They're so easy to do. And everyone makes a big hoo-ha and thinks, you've got to spin the water and add vinegar and all this lot of old rubbish. You just crack an egg into some boiling water and you will poach an egg. You don't have to spin the water. You don't have to add anything into the water if you don't want to. But I'm going to really annoy everyone without any definite answers here. But if you have a very buttery scrambled eggs, that is amazing. And I am not adverse to a raw egg yolk in like a little ramekin when I'm having some steak and just dipping the steak into the raw yolk, like a sort of mayonnaise, basically. So, and I am streaming this to my channel. So I'll say to my viewers, thanks very much for tuning. And I will see everyone next Tuesday on the Team GB one. Bye. Bye, fellas.
Thanks for joining. See you soon.
See you later.
Watch our views plummet now to like 10 people. We'll see. But yeah, that's quite interesting. We got another question actually from Mike, and it is probably a good question for Rich to answer again. So a lot of questions today about electrolytes, and it is, if a natural ratio of sodium potassium is 1:4, why are the commercial supplements having more sodium, roughly ×5 that of potassium?
Because they're rubbish.
There we go.
We've only got to look at, in fact, can I share screen?
Yeah, go
really
ahead.
Quickly?
There should be a button to it. Yeah.
I've got something. Is this the one? Yeah, let me share this. This isn't the one that was the best one to share, but it does show. So, I mean, this is the mineral profile in two different types of beef. And if we look at the sodium content compared to the potassium, and then look at the calcium and down to the magnesium, we can see that as nature intended, that ratio is pretty close to 4:1. Was that big enough for you to see? And
yeah, I'm a mile from my computer. That's why you have to see me sort of looking at the questions sometimes.
So this is another one. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this. So bear with me 2 seconds, because there we are. So this looks at liver, heart, kidney, tongue, brain. So a number of different sources. Yes, it's all organ meats, but they're from a few different sources, i.e. beef and lamb, etc. But again, those ratios are pretty much the same. Now, if I come out of that and look at this, so this is one more, which I've correlated to a few different sources. So if I put that one up, is that sharing there?
Will do. There we go.
There we are. So this, I've compared ground beef, lamb liver into an Excel spreadsheet, for example, and most animal proteins in nature. And this is really basic. I put this together quickly for that debate with Sally K. Norton on using potassium citrate instead of calcium as an option. But just to look how nature intended, so we can see that the ratio, there's a lot more potassium in these foods than there is sodium. Again, magnesium is considerably higher than calcium. And the only time this changes is when we go into things like eggs and milk. So these electrolyte companies that are looking at this potassium sodium ratio, they preference sodium, and I'm not against sodium. Sodium is particularly important for when we begin a low carb journey, because this drop in insulin is signaling the kidneys to release lots of sodium from the body, from 4 points in the nephrons in the kidneys. So we need to replace sodium. But the problem with this is extra sodium, when we replace it, further depletes potassium. So these other electrolytes on the market, their profile is completely out of whack. We need considerably more potassium. Now, what I've done with mine, I've put a ratio of roughly 1:1. And the reason for this is that we need X amount of sodium to overcome things like the keto flu, but we don't want to bombard it with extra potassium initially, because it's going to be counterintuitive for combating that keto flu. But as we eat more towards carnivore or animal-based, we'll be replenishing that ratio as we're eating more beef. So it's, yeah, as much as I hate to say it, these other electrolytes on the company on the market are they're rubbish. For a start, they contain too much calcium. They contain low bioavailable ingredients, and the ratio of sodium to potassium is completely wrong. You need at least a 1 or 2-to-1 ratio, i.e. sodium to potassium. So if the potassium is half of the sodium, then that's a way better quality electrolyte. The closer it comes to 1:1, the better the electrolyte. And I would even argue that long-term carnivore could potentially see an increase in potassium further. So that's another product that I might look into in the future, is producing an electrolyte that does have that ratio as nature intended. But we're trying to combat lots of other problems along the way as well, because all of these things they work against each other. Magnesium and calcium and sodium and potassium. But it's it's a minefield. But that's why I'm not a big fan of a lot of other electrolyte companies on the market.
Yeah, we've got a kind of follow-on question to that, and it's basically Cami said, but you recommended a tablespoon of salt in the beginning. That's a lot of sodium, so instead of adding all that separately, it would be okay to get it from a electrolyte supplement, right? I don't think any of us recommended a tablespoon of salt.
So the tablespoon equates to roughly 4 teaspoons, which is somewhere between, depending on the tablespoon and whether it's heaped, somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000. So it's about 15 milligrams, I believe, isn't it, off the top of my head? And that's an awful lot of salt, but that's typically what we need to be in this optimal range. Looking at that study when we look at excretion. But supplementation, some people don't like salt. So supplementing is fine, but we need salt. Sodium is particularly important, especially when we're beginning that low carb journey. And coming back to a question that somebody else put in, or statement in regards to Chafee not using salt. Chafee eats a lot of meat, so he's getting a lot of electrolytes from the food that he eats. And as Phil said, that he's coming from a background that he hasn't been damaged, as much as the rest of us. But what you do find is the longer that you live a carnivore lifestyle, the more the body seems to upregulate specific pathways and enzymes in the body, and we can utilize these things a lot better in the same way that we do with insulin and testosterone. All of these things, a requirement for them comes down because the body becomes more efficient. And we do see it is common within the carnivore community that our reliance on exogenous electrolytes becomes less and less. But we've also got to remember that the food that we eat today isn't the food that it once was. The electrolyte mineral profile in meats going back 10, 20,000 years ago was considerably higher. And the intake of potassium alone during the Stone Age period was around 16,500 milligrams. And the average person doesn't get anywhere near that. These days, the quality of the meat has been deteriorated drastically. The ground that this cattle is consuming, the grass, the soil has been treated with toxic chemicals, which has made it devoid of these nutrients. The whole system has been damaged, and we don't eat the way, and we don't live the way that we used to. We would have killed an animal and eaten everything within that animal. We would have crushed the bones. We'd have eaten the bone marrow. We would have eaten the stringy bits and the knuckles. Like I eat the knuckle. When I eat chicken, I eat the knuckles on the chicken because it's full of collagen, it's full of electrolytes. I eat all the stringy bits. If you go to the butcher or a restaurant, they tend to cut all these things away. That's where all the collagen is. And it's really important for the methionine to glycine ratio as well, which is something we can probably touch base on another episode, because that is also really important. We can consume too much meat and throw this balance out of whack if we're not eating organ meats or eating the stringy bits or replacing things like bone broth. So bone broth is another fantastic way, to get those in. But we would have killed an animal, we would have crushed the bones, we would have drunk water from puddles, we would have cut that meat up and thrown it on rocks, they would have collected all of these different salts. What we eat today is not the same quality as it was tens of thousands of years ago, unfortunately, but we're all different, so our requirement for every person is going to be different.
Yeah, that's interesting. Phil, do you have any take on that at all?
No, to be honest, I love Richard's scientific outbursts because I learn a lot from them. I just go with how I feel, and it's great to see these things, explained as exactly what's going on. Well done, mate. Loved it.
Yeah, I think you don't really want to be deficient in anything. And when that point does happen, if it does happen, you'll know about it. And by that point, you would have acted upon it and done something to correct it. Usually it means eating a bit more meat than just, I don't know, cheese, which is like super low in potassium. You'd have added a bit of salt to your food. Depends on epigenetics as well. I know a guy, I think a Dutch chap, he's eating like 15, 20 grams of salt a day. I used to do that when I was bodybuilding. I was eating a load of food and trying to gain loads of weight. That was on a mixed macronutrient diet. So my gut permeability was probably really high. Probably didn't absorb the minerals very well. So I can understand why the body's adaptive. Like now, I consume about 5 grams of sodium per day, about 2 to 2.5 grams of potassium per day, about 250 milligrams of magnesium per day. I seem to be fine with that. I don't have deficiencies. I train, and I've been doing it for a long time now, so it kind of tells me my body has sorted itself out. I just think initially when people transition to the carnivore diet or a keto diet, they might need it or find it even more useful. It steadies the transition. The body is adaptive. Body has different salvage pathways, different ways to recollect any minerals that have been thrown out of the system quite quickly. But if your gut's irritated, you're not going to absorb stuff as well. So be conscious of that as well. That's pretty much all I have to say about electrolytes. Nothing too magical. Look at the next question here. It's on, I think this one. I now barely use any salt.
Jonathan, just before you go to the next question, because I've just spotted this, I've got to say, because it's so cool. The Carnivore Cure says I went from £715 to 490 on Carnivore in 7 months.
How did I miss that?
Got all my mess. I don't know what that means, and my doctor said he was worried about my diet. I mean, isn't this amazing? This happens all the time. Just fantastic to highlight that, and well done, brilliant.
Yeah, good effort there, Carnivore Cure. My transformation isn't that dramatic. I've probably not done much at all with my body in the last few years, but I'd say maintaining my physique is a lot easier now. I don't try to maintain a 5% body fat year round. I hover about around 12 to 15% body fat, and I feel good there. And that's my default setting right now. So, I would like to do a transformation at some point, but it just wouldn't be that impressive. People look at it. It's like, I think it's more impressive to see someone go from 715 pounds to 490, for example, than for me to get in contest shape and drop 20 pounds. It doesn't really, say much.
I know what you mean. I've got to, in public, say, listen, Richard, I've got to get you on the podcast soon because I've got to go through your journey. I've really got to hear about that. I showed Peter, who popped up earlier, my son. I showed him your profile pic on Facebook, and he just looked at it and he went, "That's not real." What's that? Amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a journey, but my body fat percentage is still single figures, but obviously I've come away from the bodybuilding, and I'm probably about what was it I worked at today? Maybe 30k. No, sorry, 30 pounds. So it's just over 2 stone lighter now than I was at this time with a similar body fat percentage when I was competing. So I'm a lot smaller, but I've gone into running and riding. So goals change, but the abs are still there. I'm still really veiny, but just lacking the bulk that Jonathan's got now, unfortunately, and I do miss it.
I'd say it's probably just a steroid deficiency, isn't it, Rich?
Testosterone.
That's what
was it? Tren, Winstrol deficiency. All those compounds.
Well, the thing is, that's what I had through my entire sort of competing, career, if you like. And this was the reason I decided to come away from competing, because to move to the next level, to compete with these guys. So I competed in men's physique. The physique guys were getting incredibly big, like absolutely huge. And I would have needed to have gained probably 10k of quality lean mass, which at that point in my life probably would have taken 5 years to gain naturally. So I had to make a decision whether to go down that path and supplement, with anabolics, or to come away from competing. And to that, I'm not against supplementing, by the way. I work with athletes who do use, and would openly admit it. I think that whole industry has been tainted, and I believe it's more to do with excess carbohydrate consumption in regards to the increased death rate, but probably a conversation for another day. But I came back to why I began my journey, and it was health. So I'm thinking I didn't want to go down this path of injecting, all these substances, just to achieve something that, yes, would have been a next step, but I achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. So now I've gone on to the next phase in my on my journey, if you like, and that is a complete 180. I've gone into running and cycling with the goal of doing Ironman eventually, but I've been competing recently in duathlons. Until this year, I'd barely done any running since I was in school. I'd never ridden a bike, a proper road bike. And I was useless. I could barely run 1.5k. In fact, I could not run 1.5k when I started less than a year ago. And my first 5k took me 42 minutes. Now it's down into 18 minutes, which for any of those that run is, it doesn't set the world alight. But sub 20 on a 5k for anybody that's been running less than a year is pretty good. But it's the lifestyle that's allowed me to transition into doing that seamlessly. But new targets, new goals. But again, it's all about health, isn't it? I think that's what we need to keep in mind. It's we put these physiques in our image as well, and sometimes that picture that you referenced, I love the picture. I love it. I put it on everything. I'm really proud of it. But I was not healthy. That was taken 2 weeks after winning the European Championship. I was 3% body fat in that picture. So by guesstimation alone, because I didn't test on comp day, I guess I was around 2%. That's not healthy. It looks awesome, but it's not healthy. I'm healthy now. I'm not as ripped as that, but I'm way healthier. So I think that's also really important. When we're chasing these specific physiques, we got to remember that some of us are not genetically predispositioned to be ripped and shredded and sub 5% body fat. It's not healthy. So the body will find its level. It'll find its natural level of homeostasis. And for me at the moment, that's probably sitting between 8 to 10%. A little bit fluffier than I'd like, but but I'm fit and healthy, I think.
Yeah, I wish I'd known how to eat like this. Back in the late 90s when I ran my own gym, I knew how to train and I got big, but I could never get ripped. However much exercise I did, and I'd go and ride a mountain bike for an hour every morning, and I'd do all of this stuff. I'd train loads in the gym while I was there and running it at quiet times. And I got big, but I never, ever got ripped and never got abs out. I was never fat back then, but I never got abs out because I thought it was about excess cardio and not made in the kitchen. And then by the time I did figure it out, I've been so sick and been vegan, I ended up ripped at 9 stone instead of like 15 stone, which I should have been back then. And so I've done one and the other, but I've never put them together. And it's always been a regret of mine that I didn't know how to eat. Not only would it have got me ripped, but it would have meant that I wouldn't have been, 10 years later crippled with rheumatoid arthritis. It's amazing, isn't it, how we get these things wrong? But there we go.
It's never too late. It's never too late. Age is but a number.
Yeah. My goals are not there. I'm not going to get massive again, but I stay effortlessly lean, but definitely not ripped.
Yeah, but that's exactly it, isn't it? I remember watching a program on Netflix. I think it was called Physical 100. I think it was. Oh my goodness, I can't remember what country it was based. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was
Thailand or Japan or something, or
it was
somewhere around there.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think it was either, but it was within one of those areas, wasn't it? It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it'll come back to me. But they put 100 of these athletes against different physical activities to find out who was the best, who was the number one. So they had massive, huge bodybuilders, powerlifters, and then you had these, like gymnasts and but yeah, what am I thinking of? Any activity that's all of these pro athletes and TV celebrities, cage fighters, all sorts. But the guy that won it was an average-looking guy who was lean. He had abs, but he wasn't overly big. But his abs were like almost just washed out. So he wasn't ripped and shredded, but he had abs. But you probably class him as being, from a bodybuilder perspective, a little bit fluffy. But he wouldn't stand out in a crowd. With a t-shirt on, he just looked like a normal guy. And that, for me, made me realize that it's, you can be one extreme or the other. You can be this huge bodybuilder. You can be an elite marathon runner. And depending on your goal, the extremity is one end or the other. But the whole point of this show was to find who was generally the fittest guy. And it was a guy with a normal physique who was lean, not ripped, not shredded, but not over muscular, and a little bit fluffy. And that's sort of where I feel that I am now. I'm optimal. I'm not huge. I'm not ripped. I'm not shredded. You can, on the right sort of angle, you can still see the outline of abs, especially in the light. But I'm not ripped. I'm not shredded. But I feel the fittest and healthiest that I've ever been. So I think you're right. That's important. It's I've never been fitter and healthier.
Well, just ancestrally, I mean, do you ever see any of the guys in these tribes over muscled and completely ripped?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's a lot better to be like that than be looking like Mr. Creosote off Monty Python, right? But I mean, Jonathan admits that it's not, putting on that much muscle is perhaps not optimal, and he does a lot of other things to sort of mitigate that and stay healthy. But if you want to do it, that's great, and it looks great and it's very impressive and all that. But is it optimal? Well, not for me now.
No, absolutely not. No, I made a video a while ago. It's something like anti-aging hack or something. I don't know, but one of the hacks was just to do the activity you need to do each day. So get good at, say you have to walk to work for half an hour, or get good at walking to work for half an hour, make your body efficient. You don't need to sprint for half an hour. It's a different activity. So what I kind of promote is like a health-focused way of developing your physique. And if you consult with Richard or myself, we both say the same thing pretty much. There's obviously Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're neglecting your health just to look a bit better for a photo, which you might put on Instagram or something, it's like, really? I can understand short term you kind of do it, but honestly, we look back, we think, we've got the photos now, we don't need to do it again. We can do it if we want to compete again, but we've already achieved that. We've hit that goal. Once we've got a photo, a trophy, a certificate, whatever, there's no need to go back to that point. It's just a temporary thing. Yeah.
It is. It's goal dependent, isn't it? And I think it depends on what you want to achieve. But I genuinely believe that living our lifestyle is the key to optimal performance irrespective of what your activity is, whether it be running, sprinting, whether it's a marathon, whether it's Ironman, whether it's strength or power, building muscle, powerlifting. Because of the lack of anti-nutrients that we consume, our bodies heal and repair quicker, and we consume carbohydrates does not build muscle. We've proven this time and time again. So I think it is goal dependent, isn't it? If you want to be, when you look at people who train for the Olympics, some of the fittest people in the world, but at that point in time, what they are putting their body through is not healthy. They these people who ride the Tour de France, every day for 3 weeks, it's a toll on the body. It isn't healthy, but it's fit for purpose. It's there to achieve a goal. So it is certainly everything is goal dependent. So, and as you say, once you've achieved that goal, you may decide to go to the next level or come away from it. But optimal health, I do believe it is. I believe in resistance training, but I also believe in other activities as well. But it's finding that medium ground, for optimal health. But it is goal dependent, as you say.
Yeah, I think as well as Phil, I'll have to do a podcast for you at some point to try and suss it out. I'll probably have to do a 2 or 3 hour one. I think we'll have to book out a big time slot, so I can see us sitting there on camera for that long and going into every new minute little detail about, how many grams of fat did you have from week 7 to week 6, and what happened with your weight and all that sort of, So
yeah, you do the technical one, and I'll do the life story.
You do the fun one. Yeah. All right, we'll get back to some questions now. I think I've got about 7 highlighted. We've got about probably 25 minutes left of the podcast tonight, so I'm going to try and get through them as accurately as I can. For Mike, this question is very context specific, so we probably need to know how much activity you do, your body weight, where you are in your journey in terms of the diet right now. Honestly, I couldn't really say, but I'd say on average, broadly over like every bloke I've spoke to, the very middle ground, I think you'd absolutely hit your potassium requirement for the day on a diet with 600 grams of beef and 5 eggs. Assume you're the average, 180-pound man with 15% body fat, 5'10" or 5'9", I guess. But if you wanted more information, I'd consult with myself or Richard. But do you or Phil have anything to say about that one?
No, for me, it's just your body tells you. I'm real simple on this. If you're hungry for something, then eat it. I know if it's a lamb or a beef day. I know when I need liver. I know when I need a ton of egg yolks, and that's very rarely. But when I do, I eat a shitload of them. It's just for me, it's go according to your intuition, what your body's telling you. And let these guys tell you why your body is telling you that, with all the figures. Because I don't know that.
Some need the reinforcement.
They know that stuff,
Yeah. Yeah, they need the reinforcement sometimes. And I consult people, and it's like, they know the answer to the question already, but they want to know why. So a lot of time I spend consulting people about, why we don't need this or do need this. And it's sometimes it's quite fun. Sometimes I just want to save your block of time. Here's a video I've done explaining it. It lasts 10 minutes long. But, you pay for your time, so you got to obviously give them the answer they want. But, Richard, do you have a take on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that would equate roughly, to about 3,000 milligrams of potassium per day off the top of my head. It's, again, everybody is different. I consume daily over a kilogram of meat. So from food alone, my potassium consumption is double that. And I supplement with the electrolytes throughout the day. So my potassium intake, if I look at, my potassium intake is well over 10,000 milligrams per day. I mean, it's probably the amount of electrolytes I supplement is probably closer to 20,000. But that works for me. If it's working for you, then it's fine. I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And again, we're all different. Listen to your body, as Phil and Jonathan said. I think we need to do this intuitively. Just listen to your body. Your body will tell you if you are lacking something. And the same goes for a question that I get asked quite often is, can you consume too much electrolytes or too much sodium? And technically, yes, but your body will reject it far before that ever happens. you will physically be able to, you won't be able to consume that salt. Your body will reject it. You probably become physically sick. So if your body is telling you you need it, and you are eating your food and you're enjoying the salt on there, for example, then your body needs it. If, sometimes my missus made me some bacon and eggs a couple of nights ago, and it's like, there was way too much salt on there. I know I ate it out of courtesy, but I hope she's not listening.
You do, yeah.
But it's I didn't need that salt, and my body was telling me, and it wasn't very pleasant. Whereas the night before, I wanted it, and I ate all the salt, and it's what I needed. But your body will tell you if you eat that food, or you've got to drink that electrolyte and it feels overpowering, your body doesn't want it, and it will reject it far before. So just listen to your body, eat intuitively.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we can reinvent the wheel there. We're going to not be able to sell consults anymore because we've not complicated it enough. We've got a question from Landers, which is, I have a bit of trivia for the Carnivore Keto panel. The question is there recommended elapsed time to eat a post-workout meal? I'm interested in what you guys think. I've made heaps of videos on this on my channel already. I get asked this, I'd say every other week on my Monday Night Live, but if you guys want to chime in, maybe Phil first or Richard.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick one on this. I think this one's really interesting. I think it's when you want to eat it, because I've noticed something. I don't know if you have, but if I get quite hungry, and I've got this sort of, I love the saying that hunger means hunt and not eat. And so, leave it a little while till you're really hungry. And then obviously as the Ayurvedic doctors would say, your agni is at the highest, the digestive sort of potential is there. The more hungry you are, the better you're going to digest and absorb food. But I can be quite hungry in the morning. And I think, you know what, I'll tell you, I like training fasted. I don't do that much training, but just some body weight stuff at the moment. And I think, right, I'll go and do that and then I'll eat, because I don't want to eat and then do that. And the training knocks the hunger off. It totally knocks it off until I've got to wait like about an hour before it comes back again. I think, yeah, I've got to get on with the day. I'll train, I'll eat, and then I'll get on with everything. And I train and I go, not bothered. And I have to go do some work, sit down at the drums, practice a bit or whatever. And then I start to get hungry again. I don't know what's going on there. Has anybody got a technical explanation for that? Because I just go with how I feel.
I've got a theory. What do you think, Richard?
What, in regards to not feeling hungry after training?
Yeah.
So it's I think it's an mTOR reaction, because training will increase mTOR. So there's a number of ways that we can activate mTOR in order to build and heal and repair the body. Training is one of them. Carbohydrates can activate mTOR through IGF-1, but protein will activate it directly. But I'm not a big fan of eating pre-workout. It doesn't work well for me. I'm with Phil. I prefer to train fasted, no matter what exercise or activity I'm doing. On the activities I'm doing now in regards to running and cycling, I'll probably fast for at least 16 hours, maybe sometimes even 24. Now, the flip side to this is nutrients are incredibly important to heal and repair the body. But it's this mTOR reset. It's just this reaction of mTOR, and when it resets, and then we can elicit this reaction again that I always come back to. And I think if you train and you're eliciting this mTOR reaction, to me, it feels counterintuitive to eat within that window, because mTOR will activate for about 3.5 to 4 hours. That means if you eat within that window, you're not eliciting any further mTOR reaction. Whereas if you consume around 50 grams of protein or 3 grams of leucine 3.5 to 4 hours after, then you elicit another mTOR reaction. So you're stimulating more growth. So I'm in the camp of eating. I think as long as you eat within, a set period and you've got nutrients in your body's going to heal and repair. But is it optimal? I think 3.5 to 4 hours after training, eating is optimal. That's going to activate mTOR again, and 3.5 to 4 hours after that, and again and again. And I think if we use this protocol, you can activate mTOR 4 times within a day while fasting. So if you're still coming from the fasting camp, then we're still benefiting from being in a fasted state. So it's this balance of AMPK and mTOR activation. But for me, I'm not a fan of eating. If I'm hungry, then I will eat. Again, it's eating intuitively, but it's whether it's optimal. If I'm actively trying to gain muscle, I've just activated mTOR with training. I'm going to wait 3.5 to 4 hours before I eat to elicit this reaction again. Otherwise, it means that meal technically has been wasted. You know, it's, I've got to eat more, or I've lost one mTOR activation. So I guess it depends on what your goals are, and context again is really important. But I'm not a believer in this anabolic window. I don't think that we've got a set period of time after training to get the food in, and I think that's been pretty disproven, isn't it? You know, copious amounts of times. I don't know what your thoughts are, John, but it's yeah. I mean, that's my take. I think I'm a big believer in training fasted and eating 3.5 to 4 hours after a workout.
Yeah, I think on the carnivore way of eating, I can see why a lot of people do train fasted, just because your hormones are more adjusted the right way. You know, you're not getting all the blood sugar drops from having carbs every 2-3 hours or whatever. So, you know, you're able to train, you've got that release of energy, which is a lot more stable. For me, I prefer to train with a small meal, but that's just my anecdotal experience. It's more so that if I'm at Sophie's, I'll eat at about 7:15 in the morning, something like that. At my place, it'll be about 8 or 9 o'clock. Typically, I train about 3 to 4 times per week, and it'll be a session. Assuming I'm at Sophie's, it'll be about 8:15, 8 o'clock. I'll actually train, so about an hour. So the meal has to be by default small, otherwise I'll feel sick. I've tried training without food in me, but I noticed that I tend to feel just a bit flat and depleted. Now, saying that, I've done it both ways for extended periods of time. So I did used to do intermittent fasting, the whole carb backloading thing. So I typically fast until I do like a 16-8 protocol. So I train in the morning, then wouldn't eat until about maybe a couple of hours after, then cut it off earlier in the evening. But yeah, I think the anabolic window doesn't exist in the sense that we think it does. I think the most important thing is getting the protein and other nutrients overall throughout the day. I'd say that's going to be the biggest lever in terms of like building muscle, as opposed to trying to get the right frequency in. Ultimately, it has to fit your schedule as well. If you're going to work and you train in the morning, you maybe just have a small protein shake or some raw eggs or some cream or something in it after the gym, whatever you feel digests best. There's nothing really to say add on to what Richard said, I don't think. The main thing is just getting the food overall throughout the day, and eating when you're actively hungry. And Phil mentioned a good point as well. You know, if your body anticipates food, it smells good, the enzymatic juices, you know, pop up, and you're like, oh, let's go. And as for like the other thing about why I think people's appetite's a bit blunted after training, I actually didn't think of the way Richard explained it, but that's another good way of putting it. I think it has something to do with blood glucose being elevated when you train, because your body is anticipating that it needs to keep up the supply. So, you know, through gluconeogenesis, things like that. I'm thinking that as the blood has glucose in it at that time, it's blunting appetite because it doesn't want a shed load more in at that point. So perhaps that could come into it as well. But I actually think I prefer Richard's theory on it. It sounds a bit more robust than mine. So, yeah.
Do you know, it was interesting, Jonathan, when you were just saying that, like, before you train, you eat small. So I guess the amount that you eat is probably not activating mTOR anyway. So you're not actually causing any damage to this, you know, any damage to that mTOR activation, because you're eating probably, I'm assuming, less than 50 grams or 40, 50 grams or 3 grams of leucine.
Yeah, it's about, I'd say about 40 to 50 grams, but you got to account with body weight into it as well. For me, I mean, I've worked out through anecdote and a bit of science I've dragged together. It's about 20 grams of leucine per day. I need to maximize leucine based on, you know, extrapolation basically. But I find it works best for me about 4 meals per day, but I can do 3. So yeah, it's very dose dependent. You know, the bigger you are, the more you need in a hit, because you're going to need more over the day anyway. But yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
All right, we'll go to the next question. We're not going to get time to get all these in, guys, so we're just going to go through them on the list. If we've already answered them by default in another question, we'll just have to leave it at that, I think. So this is from Landers. I have a bit of trivia for the Carnivore Keto panel. Is there recommended elapsed time to eat a post-workout meal? We've just answered that one, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
We have. We absolutely have. Blame me, it's past my bedtime. I'm a black coffee drinker, but wanted to drastically reduce or cut out completely. Best alternative warm drink PS, what is Richard drinking? Chocolate something.
So yeah, it is gone now, but it was. So that is my exogenous ketones. The chocolate flavor exogenous ketones that I add a little bit of MCT powder to. So it's basically beta hydroxybutyrate, but lots of benefits. Way too much to describe in 5 minutes. But we elicit all of the benefits of being ketogenic carnivore, and we can upregulate these pathway systems and enzymes within the body. I've used it there and then because I've just finished a workout. So using it there and then is going to increase EPO naturally, but it also helps calm the body. So it's going to allow me to sleep better, even though technically BHB is an energy. It's not it's not a stimulant. So because there's no coffee or caffeine in there, it can work in that respect. Plus it blocks NLRP3 inflammasome. So it helps with inflammation and helps me heal and repair and recover. But I'll also use it in the morning to give me a boost. I'll use it before work. You can use it for lots of different reasons. I supply some of this to the NHS for dementia and Parkinson's patients. People use it for aches and pains. They use it for mental clarity. All of the benefits that we get from being ketogenic carnivore just allows you to benefit that a little bit further. In most people, some people will use these compounds and not confer a further benefit because they're probably optimal. But for me, because I train, extensively, it does confer a benefit. But it's a fantastic go-to for me. So it's a chocolate BHB with MCT powder. You can add cream. I'm not against cream. Obviously, the more strict you are as being a carnivore, then maybe you want to remove that because of the casein in there. But I will add cream occasionally. I'm not 100% against cream, but yeah, that's what I'm drinking. No coffee too late for me.
Phil, do you ever take on that, like warm drinks on carnivore?
I was never anybody with a really addictive personality and being addicted to everything else. I've never understood tea, coffee, or anything, or warm drinks. So I just not interested ever. It's something I don't want to get into. I don't mean talk about, but I don't want another addiction. I can do without any. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of people just say bone broth.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah. If you're going to pick something, pick. Either Richard's keto drink if you like something sweet. It's not going to probably knock you off too bad. Or have some bone broth. That's pretty much it. I don't think there's another answer to that one. And I've listened to thousands of hours of podcasts and things with carnivore, so I don't know. So we've got a question as well from Landers, which is, after years of glycation or a high carb diet, is there any evidence of reversibility or healing when going carnivore? I'll just say quickly yes, because I've seen some people appear to have plumper skin. The skin can glycate, can cause dead skin cells, lose collagen, elasticity. In terms of like the insides part of it, like the blood vessels and things, I think you can reduce some of the inflammation that's happening within the blood vessels. How long it takes, I couldn't say. In order to know it's happening, you'd have to do quite an invasive scan, or at least a CAC scan, which does cause some damage to you. It's not completely innocuous. Outside of that, I kind of wish Richard was here to answer this sort of question, but do either of you guys have a take on it in regards to glycation and reversing it on carnivore?
So yeah, I've worked with a few people who have suffered with bad eyes. So they wear reading glasses or glasses in general, or they wear contact lenses. And years of being ketogenic or carnivore, they no longer need to wear their glasses because their bad eyesight is caused by glycation to the optic nerve. So it's it's anecdotal, but take it as it is. It's we've seen countless amounts of people who have improved, and I've never worn glasses, but everybody in my family does. But my eyesight seemed to be on a downward spiral a few years ago. But when I became carnivore, and this is going to sound really stupid, but maybe you guys can attest to this, but everything just seemed to be more colorful. Like when I was outside, everything was brighter and more colorful, whereas before it just seemed to be, the contrast on the TV was turned down, But the more I adopted into the diet, the more I could see. It's as if the cloud was lifted. So it's that's my experience.
No, there's, you know, for eyesight, there's, I've experienced it when I stopped eating carbs and you know, I was starting to sort of put things a long way away to read them, and it just kind of came closer and closer. And like, I'm 61 now, and I don't have glasses. I can read them, admittedly, and I wish I hadn't. I had my eyes lasered in 2006 for short sight. But anybody who's got that, I would really recommend going and looking at endmyopia.org, Jake Steiner's stuff. And those exercises really do heal short-sightedness. It's amazing website. You know, there's a lot of exercise out there that don't work. Also, we met a guy at our Carnivore conference in 2019, and he was doing 3-day fasting, 1-day feasting. And he found that, you know, for very serious ailments, and was fixing cancer and all sorts in people. But he came along because he realized that 1-day feasting was the best to be done on Carnivore. Anyway, he showed us loads of, he would take photos of people's retinas before and after these treatments. And whatever they were healing, he'd take photos of their retinas. Every single time, more new blood vessels would come in. And this business of sort of macular degeneration is supposed to be not reversible, and he was seeing it over and over and over again. So yeah, any part of the body, any system can fix itself, but how long does it take? Who knows? I don't know. Depends on so many other things.
Yeah, your body always wants to heal, I think, but sometimes you just overburden yourself with crap that doesn't need. You know, the environmental exposures, the lifestyle nonsense, the diet is probably the biggest one in my opinion. Yeah, I notice if I have an off-plan meal, going back to what we spoke about a little bit earlier, the first thing I initially notice, other than like the stomach discomfort, is my eyes in the morning. Like they'll feel like a bit sore. I don't know, like a bit like tight, like maybe a bit dry. I don't know. But that's the first like obvious thing I get, and it's super annoying because it's like I know I've stepped over a boundary, but it's good because in a way it's subtle. It's not like I get what Phil gets if he eats like a hamburger and chips or something, and he ends up with like sore knees and God knows what else. You know, I guess you've got what's the word? You'll appreciate the benefits you do get in some cases. Got a question from Ben, which is, did my first 3-day fast and I've seen good benefits, although I could not sleep the whole 3 days. Any advice to overcome this on my next attempt? I think I would do a 1-day fast, a 2-day fast, then a 3-day fast. And if that's not gradual enough, I'd increase it by a few hours each time. I think sometimes if people aren't properly fat adapted, that can be a problem as well. You know, if your body's constantly going through protein and turning that into glucose, you know, your body's going to be pretty used to burning off glucose as energy as opposed to fat off your body fat tissue. So I'd look at your macronutrient ratio, but that'd be my first and second thought. What about you, Phil? What would you do?
I don't know. I like the old rock and roll thing, you know, no sleep till bedtime, but it just, it doesn't, I don't know. Your body doesn't need so much sleep when it's in ketosis and also when you're fasting. Quite often people find that, but I'd say just go for the maximum sort of Jesus in the devil, in the desert, 40 days, 40 nights, dry fast. That's what you want in the desert. You know, I interviewed Asa Santiago for my Red Pill Buddhas podcast the other day. I just put it out. And he was mentioning that he heard somebody who did a 51-day dry fast. Is that possible? I don't know. Were they faking? Interesting, though. But I've done a lot of fasting in my time before I learned how to eat, and I was frightened of food. And I did find that the sleep went down. But I think this can be mitigated. It depends whether you're getting all the light right. You know, you've got to get the light in the morning, get out, get the morning sun to trigger that melatonin production, and then get the lights off in the evening, get the blue blockers on, whatever, to allow the melatonin to be released. And if you do that, you might find a huge difference. But if you're not sleeping, don't panic, because we actually sleep in sort of 1 hour, 30-minute cycles, thereabouts. Mine's about 1 hour 20. If I have a nap in the day and I don't get disturbed, it'll be bang on 1 hour 20. You know, and sometimes I'll sleep for like 2 hours 40 or whatever it is. And then I'll wake up. And a lot of people will go, oh, my God, I used to. Oh, no, I can't sleep. Just don't panic. Chill out. Do what you want. Go watch a film. obviously with a screen over the front of your TV, no lights on, blue blockers on, all of that kind of thing. Do what you want, you know, listen to a podcast, whatever, with your phone on airplane mode and the screen red. But do that, and then you'll just drift off again. And what you want is like 5 cycles optimally of like an hour and a half. It's between a sort of hour 20, hour and 40. I think people get that proper actual sleep of all the different sleep cycles, sleep phases within that. And I would just not panic about it, because ancestrally we had biphasic sleep. We'd wake up in the middle of the night. We'd sit around a campfire. We'd tell stories. We'd fiddle about with each other, you know, and have some fun. And then we go back to bed again, you know, and that's what we do. And that is kind of ancestral. And just don't panic if you do wake up. Maybe it's a case of waking up a bit and then panicking and then not sleeping. I don't know. You'd have to go into a lot more. If the light's right, if you're panicking about not sleeping, that kind of thing. If you look at my YouTube channel, I've got 10 top tips for better sleep, and it's all about hacking the house for light. And then I also go to a podcast, a blog that I did. There's a link underneath with all sorts about 23 other ideas, I think, of all sorts of things about sleep. But if your body doesn't need that sleep, just don't panic. It's the thing that stops us sleeping the most is panicking about not sleeping. I mean, what's the worst night's sleep you ever get? When you have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for a flight to go on holiday or something. And then you just cannot sleep because you're going, I need some sleep before that. And then you don't sleep. So it could be panic. It could be anything. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I saw the comment from Andrew. So yeah, I appreciate that. I hate my accent, and I wish that I could change it, but yeah, without emigrating and living 40 years in a foreign country. But no, I can't. I hate listening to myself. You know, when you've got to, when you've done a podcast and you've got to watch it back and you cut in half. Yeah. Well, thank you. Way too kind.
That's why I never listen to mine, because
that makes more sense.
I listen to I sound like my monotonous, boring cousin, and I think, where did that voice come from? Welsh accent, no. And hello, Andrew. Good to see you. Welsh accent is great, man. Carry on. Don't stop it. It's fine. Absolutely.
Yours is quite subtle compared to what I'm used to, because I used to study at Bath Spa, so I was a stone's throw away from Bristol and Wales, you know. So I met a lot of people with very strong accents, and I couldn't grasp it at all. But yeah, funny enough, Richard, on the map, he's about 3.5 hours from me, so he's not even that far. We're talking like 150 miles away or something. It's quite funny to see how much our accents change. Then Phil's probably actually much further than me. So, but yeah, it depends where we grew up. So,
well, I grew up down south. I'm here among the Scousers now, and I never got the accent. Never picked anything up. My kids have a bit. You know, they say bath and grass and stuff like that, and take the piss out of me for saying bath and grass. But that's about it. You know.
But they've got it wrong, though. So you know.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah.
I went to public school, God damn it. I know how to speak.
Yeah. Well, have you guys got time for 3 more questions that we've got at all?
Yeah, go for it. Let's whiz through them, no?
We'll whiz through them if we can. So this one's about testosterone and eggs. What do I think about it? I think, yeah, you could eat 36 eggs a day. Personally, I wouldn't. I wouldn't see many people that would require that much food at the avoidance of eating meat alongside it, if that makes sense. I'd be saying I'd rather someone eat a mixed animal food diet than just eating eggs. I think if someone was eating that many eggs a day plus loads of meat, like all us guys would be, then I'd say you'd have to be like an 800-pound person. Honestly, I've not eaten more than this last year. I've eaten about 4 to 12 eggs, jumbo size, every day. Now they're about 1.5 times the size of the average egg you get in the supermarket. It's about 80 grams each egg. That's where I've averaged the entire time. And I'm a big guy. I eat a lot of food. So I'll give you an idea of point of reference at least. But does it increase testosterone? I think once you've reached that point where you're no longer deficient in any vitamin or mineral, then it's diminishing returns. Do you guys have a take on it at all?
Yeah, look, again, what do we need to create hormones? It's protein and fat, and eggs supply protein and fat. So it makes sense that we're going to increase our ability to create these hormones. But what I would add to that is that, again, the body becomes more efficient. So what we tend to see, and I believe this is one of the reasons that our friend Paul Saladino put more fruit and veg back in, or fruit at least, no veg, was because he saw a drop in his testosterone. But my experience is initially when I became carnivore, there was an elevation and then it dropped back down. But my ability to build muscle was not diminished. My energy wasn't diminished. And I think that the body just becomes more sensitive. Again, it upregulates all of these enzymes and pathways within the body in the same way as it does with insulin. Doesn't mean our bodies don't use insulin anymore. We've just become more efficient at the insulin that we do use. And I believe it's the same with testosterone. So do we need, the question would be, do you need to increase your testosterone? Fat is a fantastic way to do that, but we can get that fat from other meats as well. Lamb is a meat that we always seem to miss. And I believe, I would actually argue that maybe grass-fed lamb is probably more beneficial than grass-fed beef. And that's something we seem to miss within our community. But there's much better ways. I eat about 6 to 8 eggs a day. But again, eggs are low in leucine, and it's leucine that has this mTOR activation, which all contributes to building testosterone. So at 36, I love my eggs. Seems incredibly excessive. I'd opt for other means, but always question, do you actually, these ranges that we're told to be in, these are average ranges. We're not average people, so do you want to be in an average range? If your energy is high and through if you're living this lifestyle, do you need to increase your testosterone would be the question, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, just quickly from me on that. I think chickens have not usually been fed what they're supposed to eat. The eggs are not particularly optimal. And the egg whites are revolting and quite inflammatory. So, egg yolks are a sauce. Put some sauce on some burgers or some steaks if you can still take the egg yolks.
Yeah, it makes sense. Question from Troy, which is, any advice on getting over serious food poisoning on carnivore? All I can see online is the brat diet, and that's not happening. Honestly, I think it's a case of waiting it out, perhaps eating a lot less. I think following your appetite is going to be the key. Let your body detoxify itself, assuming you're still throwing up and being sick. And I think that's probably the best advice I could give, outside of trying to take more drastic, like a dry fast perhaps, or maybe a salt flush. I don't know. What do you guys think towards trying to get through a food poisoning sort of period on carnivore a bit quicker?
Go with your hunger, and mostly you're not hungry when you've got food poisoning. And where does food poisoning come from? It's very seldom it comes from meat. It usually comes from things like reheated rice and
lettuce leaves and
packet salads and things like that. So
I'm on the call.
I don't know.
Yeah, might go. Yeah, I think I may be wrong, but this may be Troy that I spoke with today. So I had a consultation with Troy, who was suffering with food poisoning. Again, I'd recommend fasting. It's listen to your body, eat intuitively. Fasting seems to cure an awful lot, doesn't it? Including cancers. So are we allowed to say that?
You'll end up face down in a swimming pool. You will. Yeah, we've never seen any cancer reversals. It's absolutely impossible unless you fill yourself full of chemo. That's the way to go.
And lots of Kellogg's healthy cereal.
Which seems funny, as John, Andrew just popped up there on the screen. No cancer reversals, and Andrew, of course, is lying about anything he talks about. Yeah, we all say everybody should go for chemo and to behave yourselves.
Yeah, and what a story Andrew's got to tell, isn't it? And maybe we should get Andrew on one day for a Q&A.
I think we should. Yeah, I was watching his live video this morning. I think he's doing exercise, and he's using red light lamps and things. So if anyone's actually watching this and they want to follow someone else from the UK, I recommend following Andrew Scarborough. I'll just quickly put him back on the screen again so you recognise his profile and his name. But he's worth giving a follow. He's got a very interesting story. He's on different podcasts, and he'll probably soon be on the guys above and perhaps my podcast, and also on this. assume we can get him on. So that'd be quite a nice treat for us.
Andrew, you got to come on sometime. Brilliant. Yeah, no, he's a good mate of mine. Love him, and we've met in person a few times, and he's been on my podcast too. But he's very cool and an amazing inspirational story. So please check him out.
Yeah, and I need to get him on mine as well when I can get back into the rhythm of posting podcasts, because I still haven't posted ours, Jonathan.
I think I'll probably record ours by the time you post your hour. On it, this uploading thing, honestly, unless you do it as a job like half the time like I do, then you're not going to spend forever editing videos all day. I'm mostly an educator online rather than an entertainer. That's why I like Q&As and stuff.
I never edit them. Never. It's got to be just all done in one. All the ums and ahs, and I think it's great. Long form ones, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm a bit too particular. I don't know. I've done it in the past. I used to do loads of interviews in the past. I've pretty much interviewed everyone in an industry, bar about 5 people. So I'm like, at this point, you want to present yourself in the best light sometimes, and sometimes being a bit more edited, but a bit flashy, but to the point. Sometimes people click on it a bit more and they think, oh, this guy's quite concise. But the reality is, recording stuff for me is an absolute pain in the backside. Like with synesthesia, like sensing things as I'm speaking, it drives me absolutely insane. I experience a great deal of pleasure in life because I can experience everything. I can feel everything around me. But when recording, I can see myself in the recording looking back and thinking, God, I was doing this then. I was looking over here. I wasn't concentrating. I was pressing a button. I was going, breathing too heavy, So honestly, I spend too much time pissing around on YouTube. I swear.
I'm like Richard Duck. I hate watching myself. I have a 30 video online course called Autoimmunity, the Subtraction Method. I was going to shift it from one platform to another. Ben was going to stick it on Kartra and it's on Thinkific. So I thought I'm going to have to go through it to avoid the cost, because we can just put it on there for free, you see, and rebuild it there. Ben can do that sort of thing. I haven't got any idea. And it was going through all the videos and updating the notes on them. And I got halfway through the first 4-minute intro video and I thought, fuck this. I can't be bothered. I'm just going to pay my 40 quid a month rather than have to listen to all my 30 videos again. Do you know what? I looked at it and I thought, that's really brilliant. That's comprehensive. I'm looking forward to this. As soon as I started listening to myself, I thought, no, I can't be asked.
I've listened to some of those. I'd recommend watching them. I've watched at least a couple of them somewhere. I don't know how I came across them, but you sort of go through each part of it quite nicely. So
I was bored one day, not catching anything out for a sort of 24-hour carp fishing session. I woke up in the morning and I thought I'll record an entire autoimmunity course because I'm bored. But it's always a nice setting at that beautiful lake, so I did that.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a good one to check out.
Question.
Yeah.
Right,
we're gonna ask this question last about.
Okay.
I lost 20 kilograms on Carnivore. I look ripped-ish, but I have excess skin on my stomach. Any tips on how to get rid? Also, shout out to Phil on the Red Pill Food Book. Halfway through, and it's great.
Isn't
Excellent.
it? I can say that. The URL there underneath my name, bigfatchallenge.com. Just put /book on the end. Go get it. It's like $11. It's the PDF, the Kindle version. It's Ben's done the audio book as well. You get all of those for $11. Best book ever written on the history of food and how the elites have fooled us and controlled us with plant-based diets and God knows what. But anyway, good question. And I would say back in 2010, when I lost 90 pounds really quite quickly, and I had some loose skin. And what tightened it up basically was cold thermogenesis. I didn't do it to tighten that skin up, but I did it because it got rid of inflammation, because going my stupid vegan experiment. So I lost a load of muscle with all the fat and lost loads and loads. And then I went keto and got pretty ripped with the cold thermogenesis as well, losing the last sort of 10 pounds. And I ended up looking like a Belson victim, but at least then I was keto. The inflammation went down and I was having daily cold baths. And when I started to do that, it almost kind of shrink wrapped me. It got rid of the loose skin. Amazing. I didn't have a massive amount, but because I never really had a big belly. I just had kind of fat all over, and I was kind of heavy. I wasn't one of these guys with a big belly that stretched all the skin and whatever. But there was some, you know, and I would say cold thermogenesis, very, very, very good for tightening up loose skin. Anyone else?
Do you need to go, Jonathan? Yep.
Yeah, you
so
go.
I lost 107 pounds, so 7.5 stone. So I had lots of excess skin and stretch marks down my arms, on my belly. And it was only a few years into my journey that somebody mentioned, you know, about, well, why don't you have excess skin and stretch marks? But I'd had all of these things, but they'd gone. No, I put it down to a number of things. One, I was going through spells of cutting for prep for competition, which involved reducing dietary fat intake. So as we're reducing dietary fat intake, we're utilizing more stored body fat. And every time we do this, the skin replenishes itself. I think it's something like every 21 to 28 days, isn't it? So every time I did this for a comp, my skin was coming back tighter and tighter. So the first thing is consistency. Consistency is key. Number two, fasting. The state of autophagy will recycle amyloid proteins. So the excess skin and stretch marks will be, the proteins in there will be used in the body for autophagy. It's not a miracle cure, but I think consistency is key. Practicing fasting regularly is going to help with that. And it's interesting you mentioned about cold thermogenesis, because another thing that I attribute it to, and something that many would deem to be detrimental to your health, but I go against, surprisingly, sunbeds. So I was using sunbeds regularly. UVA is incredibly good for the body. It increases nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, and it's the increase in nitric oxide that we get from the UVA in the sun that is actually attributed to the increase in longevity. It's not so much the vitamin D. The vitamin D increase is a surrogate marker to the nitric oxide, which comes from the UVA. So I was using sunbeds, but this, as you say, it was tightening my skin. So it's important not to abuse. I wasn't abusing the sunbed. I was going on for a short period of time, but regularly, sort of every 2 days. So not to the point where I was burning, but this tightened my skin. So those three things combined together, I would argue, would be beneficial. But coming back to this whole UVA thing, I used to be whiter than paper. Genuinely, I remember I had a hole in my jeans, and I was in work when I was a purchasing manager for an electrical engineering company. I had a piece of paper on my lap, and the color of my skin was whiter than the paper. Genuine, and that's not a word of a lie. I would burn the second I went out into the sun. I would go beetroot red. I'd become inflamed. I'd feel really sick and unhealthy and unwell, and I would peel and I'd become pale again. I couldn't catch a tan for love nor money. But I was eating lots of seed oils. Now, when I came away from eating the seed oils and I started consuming lots of saturated fat, I found I wasn't burning anymore. I was able to go into the sun for prolonged periods of time. Again, not excessively, but you can't see in the light now, but I'm fairly tanned naturally now, and I barely go into the sun, and I don't use the sunbed as often as I used to. I've probably used it once in the last month. My work involves me being indoors quite often, so I don't see an awful lot of sunlight. Although my vitamin D is incredibly high because I get that from the meat that I eat. So we get vitamin D from the food, the animal proteins. We don't just need to get it from the sun. But that doesn't mean we need to neglect the sun. But don't fear UVA rays. Don't fear the sunlight. And when you remove the seed oils, your skin and body becomes protected from the saturated fats by the saturated fats that are in there. But those are the three protocols that I've used. So I hope that helps. But it's interesting you said about the cold thermogenesis, because I can imagine that sort of having the same impact.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say about staying tanned. I mean, the melanin thing, listen to Jack Cruise's recent stuff about melanin, and absolutely fascinating. It's a quick one there. Cami says, where are those episodes on autoimmunity? Cami, I think you're on my channel as well, right, at the moment? So if you're watching it on my channel, just go to the show notes and you can see the link tree there. And there will be a link to autoimmunity, the subtraction method. It's my course. You know, it's for sale there. I give it free to people who I do a consult with who have autoimmunity. But hey, you know, we're on here. If you want to email me, I'll give you a code to get it for cheap. So if you're interested in that, go get it. I was just about to update it and relaunch it, and it will probably stay on the same platform now because I'm so lazy and I can't stand the sound of my own voice. So there we go. So it's going to stay there.
Yeah, I've got nothing really to add to what the guys have said about, you know, loose skin. What I'd say as well is just making sure you're getting the collagen in. So you're not eating, for example, just pure plain chicken breasts. You know, you're eating the gristly parts of meat. Ground beef or minced beef, depending where you are, is a great way to get that in. I think the ratio or the percentage of collagen in it is about 12% in the UK typically. So that seems pretty good way to get the extra lot in. Important for building up skin tissues and elasticity, things like that. Also good for the gut health as well. Outside of that, I think the main thing that I'd probably go at in terms of like the overall thing would probably be surgery. But outside of that, it'd probably be just consistency. So like Richard said, you know, I had a tiny bit of loose skin when I was first competing. So I started off a little bit overweight. And as the years went by of competing, so, you know, bulk up a little bit, shred right down, bulk up a little bit, shred right down. I spent a lot of time in that lean phase. And obviously, as the body gets used to that less voluminous state, you know, less surface area, your body will eventually spring back if you feed it the right nutrients. I think the discipline part of it is really key. You know, my partner Sophie, she's quite concerned about this right now. She's lost something like 50 kilos or something over the last maybe 3 years. We're doing it very slowly with her just because her diet was absolute trash before. We don't want to put loads of toxins in her body at once, so we're just trying to get from A to B gradually, slowly, sustainably. Her issue seems to be with the eating side of it. It can cause some sort of, I won't pretend to be an expert on it, but she struggles a bit with food, as in she tends to not want to eat anymore. She sees the scale not moving, so she gets upset. Then we'll, you know, try and lose weight even faster. So I think just finding an approach that works good for you at that point in time. I wouldn't be so focused about the vanity side of it, unless you're a bodybuilder, unless you're trying to get on stage and look absolutely sick and ripped out of your mind. I don't think people care. A lot of the time, this loose skin will be somewhere not superficial. It's not going to be probably in your face, really, unlikely. So it's going to be usually midsection or lower back, perhaps. In that kind of sense, I wouldn't fuss too much about it. You know, the main thing is just getting the visceral fat off, and any excess subcutaneous fat just for good health, really. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all our questions for tonight. You guys got anything to say just before we wrap this up?
Oh, just yeah, I mean, just to add to what you said, consistency is key, isn't it? If you continue to live a healthy lifestyle, these things will eventually, in most cases, sort any of these other issues out. So consistency is key. But I just wanted to thank you guys again for another fantastic episode, and thank all the listeners for listening and commenting. It's been another fantastic episode, so thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you guys too.
Yeah, cheers, guys. If you want to find any of us, you'll find everyone's links in the show notes below in my channel, perhaps in the other channels as well. Otherwise, you can find me at Carnivore Muscle. You can find Phil at Phil Escott. Keto Pro, go for his website, buy all his stuff. We'll find him on YouTube as well, which is Keto Pro, and also the other guys, Coach Stephen Thomas BSC. He also has a website as well. I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but if you go onto his channel, you'll be able to find it there as well. But anyway, thanks very much for joining, guys, and we'll see you all